Hello, welcome to another All Hands on Deck. I'm Katherine McBean, and today we haven't done one for a while, so I thought I'd do something completely different today because it's something that's an area of interest for me, and I've had a lot of people comment and say, "Why are you so focused on what's going on in the US?" Well, one, I've been following that for 7, 8, 9 years now, and I find it really interesting, and two, people don't realize just how much of what's going on in the US is relevant to the UK, and I'll explain why. So, the point of this podcast is to talk about what has happened in the US since Charlie Kirk got shot. And we're seeing a massive revolution happen in the space of the last couple of weeks. It's been bonkers, and I'll explain what that is and why that's so important and why it's actually really exciting. So, but we have to go back a little bit. And some of you may know all this, and I'm teaching you to suck eggs, so I apologize. But there's loads of people who've been contacting me and friends I've spoken to, and they've said, actually, I don't know what's going on. I don't understand what's happening with Israel. So I thought, actually, let's take this back to basics and have a conversation about it for those that aren't aware, so that you can draw your own conclusions with a little bit more information. So going back a number of years to 2016 or 2015, when Trump was looking to run as POTUS, as candidate. And there's this 18-year-old kid called Nick Fuentes, who is suddenly turned on by what he's hearing from Trump, this America First movement. And Nick's a very intelligent guy, very young, intelligent guy. He does this debate in his college at 18. He might have been even younger, but I think he was 18. And somebody from the Daily Wire, which is an American organization, which is headed up by Ben Shapiro, who's an American Jew. And there's a number of commentators on the Daily Wire. Once upon a time, you had Candace Owens there, you had Brett Cooper there, and you've still got the likes of Michael Knowles, who's a Catholic dude. You've got Matt Walsh, who's a Christian guy, Ben Shapiro, who's a Jewish guy, Andrew Clavin, he's a Jew, but he's Christian, I believe. And these guys have been going on for some time, and somebody spotted Nick Fuentes doing a debate at college and said, hey, you're really good. We need to get you on board and join the crew. And, they sort of started to support him, blew smoke up his backside to, flatter him into getting on board. But the trouble was, Nick started asking questions. He was 18, and he started saying, why are we sending all this money to Israel? Genuinely, what we send massive amounts of money there. Why is that? What is the reasoning behind that? Please help me to understand. Anyway, these people started kind of pushing back from the Daily Wire. I'm not talking about Walsh and so forth. I'm talking about the back end, the people who worked behind the scenes more so. And they said, look, there's genuine reasons, but you can't say it like that. You're anti-Semitic. It comes across as anti-Semitic. You can't do that. And he's like, but I'm just asking questions. Could someone tell me the answers? Anyway, after a period of time of him becoming more difficult, the Israel lobby started to throw everything at cancelling him, and they were almost successful. It suddenly, he couldn't fly anywhere. He was debanked. All of his social media was shut down. He was basically sent out into the Netherlands on his own. And this kid's 18, and he's having to handle all of that. He can't get a job. He can't, he's just stunted at every move because he was asking questions that the Israel lobby didn't like. Now, this guy's a great communicator. And my thoughts on Nick Fuentes is he's young. He can be crass and crude. Sometimes he's very rude, but he's honest and he's authentic. And he says it as he sees it. And this has appealed to millions of young men across America, across the world. Nick, I think he's Mexican Irish kind of heritage. He's Catholic. He's very strong in his faith, and he carried on doing podcasts on Rumble all those years. He was literally pushed out into the nether regions and he could only really broadcast on Rumble. But over that time, he quietly built up this incredibly large following. And it's predominantly, I think, white Christian males, or he's certainly converted a lot of guys over to finding some faith in the US. And he's been getting on with that in the background. just building it up, building it up. And he's mentioned a couple of times things like Hitler and Nazis. He's got, I think his sense of humor probably works a little bit better in the UK, actually. He's quite sarcastic, he's quite dry, and things get taken out of context. You know what it's like. People clip a video, they take the bits they want to take, and they don't actually apply context. So whilst I don't agree with Nick with everything, the guy's a runaway train, and there's no getting away from it. You know, there's no getting away from it. Anyway, he rather famously had a number of clashes with Charlie Kirk. Turning Point did not want anything to do with the likes of Nick Fuentes. He turned up at one of their rallies and he was ceremoniously removed from the rally. I don't believe he was causing problems, but I wasn't there. But he and Charlie had this feud, this public feud. There's no getting away from it because Nick is very much anti-Zionist, and right up till near the end, Charlie was very pro-Zionist. I personally think Charlie was slightly handled and pushed down a certain road over the years. We know about these handlers and how powerful and manipulative they are. And I think people from the Zionist lobby were certainly trying to push Charlie in a certain direction for a number of years, leaning into the fact that he was very strong in his faith. And as a result, he and Nick had a very volatile relationship. So over the years, you saw people starting to, from the right-wing conservative movement, starting to question things since the October 7th attack, where Hamas allegedly let rip in Tel Aviv, and thousands of people were killed and so forth. I believe that there's still truths behind that story that we are not fully aware of yet. I personally feel that Israel, which has probably the most superior defense systems in the entire world, and you know that a bird can't land on the border without a camera picking it up or a soldier pointing a gun at it. I mean, that's just the way Israel is, particularly between them and Palestine. Yet these Hamas fighters were able to run riot for hours and not get picked up on by the IDF. No, no. I've been looking at this region for over 20 years. There's no way that happens. So something is very amiss with that. But as a result, some conservative, if you like, right-leaning commentators started to pick up something wasn't wrong. And then they proceeded to watch what can only be described as a genocide, as Israel attacked the Palestinian people, went into Gaza. And we've all seen the footage, and it's tantamount to horrific as far as I'm concerned. Absolutely horrific. So you've got the likes of Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson and Dave Smith, who's a Jewish gentleman who does political commentary. He's actually a comedian. These people were starting to sort of stand up and go, hang on a minute, this isn't okay. This is not okay. Candace was fired from the Daily Wire when she was working there, and it was quite acrimonious, and I don't know the true issues behind what was going on, but she has alluded to the fact that it was her views that caused it to happen. And Tucker obviously came out as now an independent, and these guys have got some of the biggest, I mean, I think Candace now has the biggest podcast in the world officially, and I don't think Tucker's too far behind her. And suddenly they were getting cancelled, or attempts to cancel them were starting to happen. So over this last couple of years, we've seen that there's a very much a pro-Zionist element within America. There's quite a pushback now as a kind of anti-Zionist approach in America. Now, the history in America has very much been pro-Zionist because people have been manipulated via the Schofield Bible and other ways to believe that Christian Zionism is a thing. Well, I'm here to tell you it's not a thing, and all you have to do is read the Bible to understand why that is. So the Judaic approach, Christian Judaic approach, is very much we are aligned under the same God, yet Judaism does not recognize Jesus. Well, they do recognize Jesus, and it's actually very negative. If you read the Talmud, that he's apparently boiling in a vat of shit in hell, and his mother is a whore. Whereas Christianity is very much about being pro-Christ. That is what it's about. So how those two connect is just nonsense, absolute nonsense. But this is what a lot of Americans have been brainwashed with. It's a very Christian nation, or has been a very Christian nation for forever. And in the last 100 years, maybe it's just slightly over, there's been this push towards this kind of Christian Zionism narrative. So America has, for a number of years, been very pro-Israel. Very pro-Israel. They believe that that land was given to the Jewish people by God, which, if you're a Christian and you read the New Testament, you understand is not the case. That covenant was destroyed when Jesus came along and created a new covenant with the people. But that's not what's known in America. And what we've seen happen over the last couple of years is this sort of gentle move away from this Zionist position, this pro-Zionist position by quite a lot of American people. Don't get me wrong, there's still a very big Christian, Judeo-Christian element to the US religious scene and political scene. Now, people are becoming more and more aware also of the power that this Israeli lobby has over the American political system. So through organizations like AIPAC, who haven't registered and should have done as a foreign organization, because they're run by Americans, that's how they kind of skirt around it. But we know that the Israel lobby has got a grip of a number of congressmen and politicians and political systems and entities throughout the US, which they've been growing and growing and growing over the years. And I believe that a lot of that following they get is either because they pay the guys a lot of money who they want to have on their side through AIPAC, or potentially blackmail would be a standard Mossad trait. It's how they function. It's what they do. Think Jeffrey Epstein. Think beyond that. We know there's loads of them out there. So a lot of people in America have started to become really aware of the fact, hang on a minute, is our government run by Americans or is it run by Zionists? What's going on here? So this awakening has been happening over the last couple of years, and it's very much sort of fast forwarded a lot since the October the 7th situation. So American commentators started speaking out, and lo and behold, what happens? Well, the Israeli lobby, this Jewish lobby, tries to come in and cancel them. That seems to be how they function, and it has been for decades. So all was going on, all was going on, all was going on. And then Charlie Kirk got shot. And what Candace and a couple of others who were close to him have revealed was towards the end, and really close towards the end of his life, as we're being told, Charlie started to stand up to the Zionist movement. He was speaking out. He wasn't happy with what he was seeing happening in Gaza. He wasn't happy with the amount of control that this cartel had over the American political system, but not just the political system. It was the media, the banking system, all the rest of it. Always the same people, all the same people. And this links up to work that I'm doing, and I will explain that as we go. So Charlie Kirk got shot, and it was horrific. I mean, there's no two ways about it. It was horrific. It did reverberate around the world. And Candace Owens comes out pretty quickly off the mark and says, hang on a minute, something's off here. I know Charlie. I know Turning Point, which is obviously Charlie's organization. I know these people. This isn't right. What happened on the day is not what would happen normally at a Turning Point debate. This isn't how it functions. Why have they done this? Why have they done that? And starts asking questions, and immediately gets attacked by the pro-Zionist lobby. They immediately go after her. Then you had Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens have a debate, and within that they covered the Zionist side of things, but they started talking about Nick Fuentes, and Candace had previously interviewed him. There was a bit of ruffling between the two of them. Personally, it was the one time I think Candace probably wasn't as on it as she is usually. She's usually very, very good at that sort of thing, and it felt like she was attacking Nick. I will be honest. Don't get me wrong, I'm not here as, you know, a big huge Nick Fuentes fan. I'm just being very frank about how I perceived it to be. But I don't want to knock Candace too much. I think she's doing incredible work. She's incredibly brave, and she's 99.9% of the time very accurate as well with her assessments. Then after that, Candace and Tucker Carlson had an interview. And they talked about Nick Fuentes, and Tucker admitted he'd only knew Nick from what I'd heard from people and the clips that he'd seen, but he was quite aggressive towards Nick because Nick had a pop at a guy called Joe Kent when Joe was running. I think he was running as a senator, but I could be wrong, actually. Just don't quote me on that part. But he was running in some sort of election, and he and Nick Fuentes clashed when Nick tried to help him because it would seem Joe Kent threw him under the bus. Now, whether he was having an application of pressure to throw Nick under the bus, I don't know. Wouldn't surprise me. A lot of these guys, it comes down to wanting the power, wanting the position, and not necessarily for nefarious reasons. I'm not suggesting that, but these guys are cutthroat and they will throw people under the bus to get where they need to get. I'm not going to sit here and judge. It's not my way, but that's what happened. So Tucker became quite defensive of Joe Kent because he knows him. So automatically assumed that Nick was this jumped up little twat who was causing problems and couldn't understand why he was causing problems and had a bit of an attack at him. Anyway, fast forward a number of weeks, and lo and behold, this podcast drops that all these people that Nick Fuentes and his team of supporters, who are known as the Groypers, who've been on the case since 2017, 2018, he's been building his following, these Groyper followings, as he calls them. Tucker got a load of phone calls after saying what he said about Nick from people he knew. And they're like, literally, don't knock Nick out the park because this guy's got the ear of millions of young white American men. You can't just push him aside. And this is what's happened to him since he was 18, how he's been cancelled beyond what we've seen with virtually anyone else. This is what these Zionist, this Zionist cartel did to Nick Fuentes to shut him up. And they haven't shut him up. He's just got bigger and bigger and bigger because he's authentic. Whether you like him or not, the guy's authentic. And I've got to say that. So Tucker invites Nick Fuentes onto his show to give him a platform. Let's see what you've got to say, sunshine. Let's see what you're about. You know, you're becoming increasingly more popular. It's causing friction within the right-hand conservative movement within the US. What are you all about? So he has Nick Fuentes on, and they talk about a number of different issues, and some things they agree on, some they disagree on. Some of it was really powerful, really strong. Some of it felt like they didn't understand each other, but they found middle ground and they talked and they were very honourable to each other. And that's all you can ask for from one of these sort of interviews. And Patrick Bet-David, who's another right-wing commentator who I think has got a very pro-Zionist leaning, but on the surface of it seems to be trying to find middle ground. He had Nick Fuentes on. He didn't get cancelled because of the fact that he's quite pro-Zionist. Others have had Nick Fuentes on and haven't got cancelled if they're pro-Zionist. But it's interesting that Tucker and Candace, who interviewed Nick, caused such craziness coming out of the Zionist lobby that he must be cancelled. And they started saying all these awful things about Candace and Tucker and how evil they are. You know, they're platforming this Nazi lover, this Hitler lover, without actually applying the context of which Nick said that. And again, I don't agree with Nick on everything. And I do find him a bit crass and rude sometimes. I think some of it's a generational thing. I'm that much older and he's appealing to young white males. So that just makes sense. But you don't deplatform somebody because of their opinion. You just don't do it. That is not free speech. And if this guy's got the millions and millions and millions and millions of young white male coming up through the ranks following him, they have to listen to what he's saying. And that's what Tucker did. That's what, you know, Candace did, and others, like I say, others, Dave Smith, you know, they've given a platform, and each one of them, if they've criticized Israel in any way in the last few years, the Zionist lobby are trying to destroy them. Now, since that interview with Tucker, it has gone insane. The Zionist lobby propagandists have come out and they're doing their usual in terms of their attacks, but it's going absolutely mad. There's a guy called Kevin, I can't remember his surname, Kevin Roberts, I believe, who heads up something called the Heritage Foundation in the US. Now, the Heritage Foundation has been around for years. It's very much a conservative movement. It's one of the key ones in the conservative movement. They help to write potential policy that can be used by the Republican Party and laying that out for what that looks like in the future. It's like a big think tank organization. And Kevin came out last week and said, hang on a minute, we're not cancelling Tucker. Tucker is a friend of ours at the Heritage Foundation. We take on board his thoughts. What he, Fuentes is awful, he's terrible, blah, 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 but we can't cancel Tucker. The Zionist lobby went nuts, absolutely nuts, and just could not have tried to destroy Kevin more. You had all these pro-Zionist commentators. There's a guy called Josh Hammer, who is, in my book, absolutely repulsive individual, and he lied about Charlie, and I'm not okay with that. Ben Shapiro, the guy should just live in Israel, quite frankly. You had a Republican, Randy Fine, who is a politician in Congress, and who I just have to say is a repulsive man, not just because he's just this hideous, huge, obese man. He was laughing about dying Palestinian children quite openly on social media, even to the point where AIPAC kind of pushed him aside. I mean, he was that bad. And he's come out and he's attacking everyone. They were going after this Kevin Roberts, I think it is. It's to the point where Kevin, with a huge lack of spine, then had to come out and say, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't understand. I was saying something that was a anti-Semitic trope. I have to, obviously Tucker shouldn't have said what he said, and he shouldn't have platformed Nick, and he shouldn't have done all this stuff," and completely backtracked. Well, this blew up because then the Groypers and those on the right who are increasingly becoming anti-Zionist were like, "Kevin, where's your spine? What you doing, man? This should be America first." So what then has happened in literally just the last 2 weeks, is we've seen this massive divide happen in the US between the pro-Israel and, so basically they're calling it America first versus Israel first. Now, when Trump ran in 2016 and since then, he's very much taken an America first position. That's what he's been saying. It's like, I'm going to fix this country. We're going to deal with the deep state, and we're going to deal with putting America back together. We're going to make America great again. We all know that. He's been running on MAGA since 2016. But since he's come into office this second time round, we've not seen the justice that we were hoping to see. We have not seen the results that we want to see. America's still economically not in a great place. And in fairness to him, it does take more than a few months to turn that around. And I get that. But people in America are starting to become really disgruntled. Those that have followed him and supported him for the last 8, 9, 10 years, whatever, are becoming increasingly disgruntled. And they're looking for an answer. They're looking for a solution. They're looking for a leadership that is going to do what they felt Trump was going to do. And here comes Nick Fuentes coming in on the back of America First. He set up the America First movement back in 2016, 2017, 18, 19 years old. And he stood by it. And that's very much taking a America First position. We're not here to support Israel. We're not here to have our politicians influenced by Israeli money. That isn't what we want to see happen. We are not pro-Zionist right now. We need to be pro-America First. So there's been this big split in the last couple of weeks. And I'm not talking left and right. I'm talking within the conservative movement in America. And it's been massive because nothing like this has happened in decades and decades and decades. So you've got these, if you like, MAGA has now become and is being seen as the pro-Israel side, the Israel first side, not America first, which is what it was supposed to be. It was always supposed to be America first. And because of Trump's behaviors, and don't get me wrong, I've got my own reasons on thinking Trump is doing this, and it's not all nefarious. I've got to be honest, but that's just my feelings, and we can talk about that another time. So you've got this Israel first side, which is what MAGA is, allegedly. Then on this side, you've got this, hey, we're America first. We're going to be what MAGA was supposed to be. We're going to say no to foreign internationals interfering in our political system, no to sending you billions and billions of dollars to kill other people, no to getting caught up in wars that only benefit Israel, not the American people. We are done with that. We see through it. We're no longer falling for the propaganda, the manipulation, the emotional manipulation that comes out of this pro-Zionist movement. So this split's been profound, and you've got the likes of Candace Owens over here, Matt Walsh over here, when they're actually good friends. But this is really defining where America will go next, and people are turning their backs on Trump. And I think that's brilliant. I'm here for that. Not that I'm anti-Trump. I still think Trump is trying to do some good stuff. I'm still keeping an open mind about him. I don't like a lot of the stuff that he's doing. But then when I look at the exposure that comes on the back of what he's doing, I'm like, are you playing a game here, sunshine? And if you are, I'm here for it. That's okay, because it's waking people up. However, this isn't enough, and understandably not enough, for those that voted for him, who want to see action. They want to see arrest. They want to see justice. They want to see the implementation of removing all the illegal migrants and all the rest of it, which the Trump administration hasn't been doing enough of. And I personally think there's people within the Trump administration who are really dodgy. Hi, Bondi. Hi, Susie Wiles. Yes, you. Pam Bondi, having worked on the Epstein case. Where's the Epstein files, Pam? Susie Wiles, who worked on Netanyahu's last campaign. And this is who's surrounding Trump. And there's others. And we'll maybe do another podcast on that. So we're now at the stage 2 weeks or so, 3 weeks or so since Tucker interviewed Nick Fuentes, and everything's just gone, and people are turning their backs on Trump. And the reason I say this is a good thing is because this is truly the Great Awakening. People have had their tongue inserted in Trump's backside, I'm sorry to be crass about it, since 2016. Now, if he's going to do what he thinks, like he says he's going to do, I can understand why that happens. Personally, I don't think we need any idolatry of any single person. I don't think that's healthy, but I can see how that happens. You get to a stage where you're desperate and you're looking for a savior. But that's an error, to put them up on that pedestal so much. But we are finally seeing the people stand their ground. Okay, they might see Fuentes as a bit of a leader, but this is the first time they're really speaking for themselves. This is the first time I've seen Americans brave enough to come out and say to the Jewish lobby, no, no more. We're done. We don't fall for your propaganda anymore. We're not going to be emotionally manipulated anymore. And we're not going to allow you to dictate where our country goes. And quite right so. Like I say, to the point where they're standing up to Trump. And I am here for that. I am so here for that, because this is the Great Awakening. And in order to be the Great Awakening truly, you've got to be able to lift the veil and risk offending those you've loved for ages. You've got to be able to risk doing that, to be authentic, to be honest, to stand in that truth that you know it to be, as you realize just the power and control this lobby has over the world. Now, I say the world because it actually applies to England as well. Well, the UK as a whole. So I'm leading up to why this actually might impact us over here, and why I'm so excited about it, why I'm so energized by this movement shift, because it is about it's about that shift in your mind. So people idolizing Trump. Trump's got all the answers. He might have. I'm not saying he hasn't, but Trump's got all the answers. King of the world kind of scenario. All hail Trump. And Trump's actually not stepping up to the mark at the moment, but Trump has not stepped up to the mark yet, visibly. So these guys are finally, these people who were MAGA for so long are finally shifting over to America First, which is about the people. And that's what this all comes back to. That is the Great Awakening, is for the veil to lift, the truth to come out, and the people to understand their power and to stand in their power. Even if it means going, I'm really sorry, Trump, but you're not doing it, son. You're not. And we're going to have to call that out. And hey, why are you allowing this Israeli lobby to control our country? Why is that happening? Why are you not standing up to them? Why are we sending them billions of dollars to destroy the lives of others? Why are we allowing them to instigate wars that we then get dragged into, which are no benefit to the American people? And in the UK, we had this. Look back at Iraq war, Afghanistani war, Syria, all these conflicts that we got pulled into on behalf of Israel. Why? Tony Blair. What have they got on Tony Blair? Miranda, what have they got on you? I'd like to know. I can imagine it's pretty disgusting. But Tony Blair was absolutely owned by the Israeli lobby. And that is why, on the back of lies, remember weapons of mass destruction, hello, we couldn't find them. This is why we got involved in those conflicts, because Tony Blair decided that was a good idea and that he would lie to our faces and allow that to happen. So anyway, fast forward to my week this week, and I have been in touch with a small group of guys who have experience in cyber intelligence, let's put it that way. And they've been quietly, very quietly working away in the background for the last couple of years to see who was behind just telling us all these lies about COVID. Who was behind all this? Who manipulated and kind of decommunicated a number of us in the last 5 years on our social media platforms, in our jobs, causing us hassle. I mean, these guys that are working on this in the background, the threats that have been made against them are not okay, not even a little bit, because they have uncovered a number of cyber intelligence organizations who come under the guise of battling misinformation and disinformation across the world. And our own foreign office recruits some of these companies to combat those of us putting out disinformation in the UK on our social media. I've personally been attacked. I've had groups saying that they're watching my house. I had one group try and interfere with my other job that I had. They were unsuccessful, as it happens. Unlucky for them that my boss is awake. So yeah, good luck with that. So I've had several. There's been a few other things happen. So I've been under attack, and I'm small fry. I'm tiny fry. I'm not technical. I'm not remotely technical. So I'm certainly not in the background doing this level of digging that these cyber guys have been doing for us. And I started to drop information this week about it. There are a number of organizations out there, some based in the UK, they're here now, some based across the world, who are recruited by global governments, by NGOs and other nefarious organizations, usual players, who are funded by the likes of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, all these other groups, Some work for the WHO. So, it's all this big interconnected network of traitors who are trying to shut us up and shut us down. And they have lost their argument, because guess what? People still will not go and get that COVID jab. People still know what happened and how we were lied to and manipulated. And some of us were very fortunate to see through that and didn't walk down that path with them. But unfortunately, billions of people did. And this was a multi-billion-dollar effort. So it's not just the ones you see on the surface. These are the organizations that work in the background. These are the ones that get control of certain elements and will manipulate and send the bots out. And they're just horrific, and they do it on all sorts of levels, and they will go to your employer. So these cyber guys, some of them have been nearly fired. Some of them have nearly lost their jobs. Some of them nearly lost their homes. Some of them nearly lost their families, because these agents from these disinfo cyber companies go out to destroy them. Not just try and stop them from doing their research, try and destroy them, because they see what a threat they are. And I'm not exaggerating. So I started this week dropping some names of these companies, and immediately X limited my account. It put a limit on my account, and I carried on. I put some more out there, and I put a notice out yesterday saying I might lose my account here, because clearly we're over the target. The fact that they tried to suspend my account immediately for me putting out this information. Well, guess what, guys? Very, very soon, we're going to start naming names, actual individual people who are driving this, because it's not okay. You do not get to try and cancel people's lives and destroy them because they are bringing the truth. Now, what is interesting is I'm currently waiting on a list from these guys of all of these organizations that centralize from Israel. And the numbers are going to be quite staggering. And I can tell you that now, because I've already seen some of them. So what does this tell us? Well, very much what's been happening in the US in terms of trying to cancel all of these big commentators who are coming out and saying, hang on a minute, what the heck is going on with Israel? Why are they controlling our government? Why are they bringing us to wars? Why are we sending them billions? Why are they doing a genocide on the Palestinian people? And yet they're calling us Hitler? What is going on? So these people have been attacked. Now, luckily, a lot of them, like Tucker and Candace, they have massive platforms, and fair play, they built those platforms. But they're trying to take them down. What are they doing to the average person like you or I? Now, if you think this isn't going to impact the UK, you're very much mistaken. What people don't understand is actually, so in the UK, we're very focused at the moment on the Muslims. And I get it. I get it. There's been some horrific acts conducted by Muslim people in the UK. There's a lot of good Muslims in the UK who've been here for donkey's years and done some great work, and they pay into the system and they're part of society. And I don't have an issue with that. But I do want to see millions of these Muslims removed who come here. There is either illegal, they're criminal, they're living off the benefit system. These guys have to go. So we do have a Muslim issue here. We also have almost no-go areas in certain parts of the country, particularly I'm looking at you, Birmingham, where it's controlled by kind of the Muslim people. And that's not okay. The fact that we have Muslim men and, well, men involved in our political system is not okay. We should not have any foreign migrants within our political system. We should not have any foreign influence over our political system. And at the moment, it's very much focused on this Muslim control and these Muslim positions. And that's okay. I get that. And I agree with that. However, what people in the UK don't seem to understand is they are not the biggest issue. And I know I go on about this, but you're like this. If you don't understand the bigger picture of this, of what's going on. So we do have an issue with Chinese within our infrastructure. I've said this before and I'll say it again. They own far too much of our infrastructure, including elements of our education system. The minute you see academy attached to the name of a school, go and track back. Where's this academy come from? Who organizes? Who controls this? Universities. Go and have a look at that. So yeah, we do have an issue with the CCP. It's there. We have an issue to a degree with Russian oligarchs in London in terms of their control over certain large organizations. Yes, there is an issue there. So, and like I've said, there is an issue with Muslim power and control within the UK. It's not okay. But the biggest issue we have is Jewish influence from these lobby groups, these Israeli pro-Zionist lobby groups within the UK. Conservative Friends of Israel, Labour Friends of Israel. You've got the Israel Lawyers. You've got all of these organizations that are here to combat anti-Semitism and give the argument for the right for the Jewish people to have the state of Israel. Bearing in mind, we, the UK, through the Rothschilds, handed that land over illegally to the to the Jewish people coming in after World War II as somewhere to live, as they were booted out of Europe for various reasons. We know the backstory. So we shouldn't have done that anyway. But we have this controlling power structure within the UK. The number of our MPs and our politicians across the UK who are funded or partly funded by the Israel lobby is disgusting. We're not necessarily talking APAC money here, but irrelevant. It should not be happening at all. None of our politicians should be taking any donations from any group that is supporting or lobbying for a foreign nation. No, end of. We should be autonomous. We should be independent. This country, so England, should be run by the English. Scotland should be run by the Scots. I'm not going into the debate about devolution here. I'm not talking about that. But we should have national people running our national governments, running our infrastructure, running our councils. It should not be foreign people. But people do not understand the strength and power that Israel have over our whole political system, our whole banking system, our media system, partially our education system. If you look back and see who wrote the education policies, go back, and to a degree our health system, but he also very much involved with our military. None of this is okay. So you don't have Iran or other Muslim nations working with our military in the way that they do. What are we doing? I mean, we were supposed to be, we stood up and we said, no, you must stop bombing Gaza. Yeah, we're sending spy planes over, British military. We shouldn't be doing that. We should not be doing that. Our government is being far too controlled by foreign nations, and far and away the biggest one is Israel. Now, if you go back donkeys years ago, we have to look back through history sometimes to understand what is happening now. People might have heard of the Gates of Toledo. You might have come across that. Well, this is going back hundreds of years. There was this clash within the city. The Jewish people were there. Guess what they did to upset the locals? They opened the gates to the Muslims and they let the Muslims in. And I think the same thing happened in, I think it was later, Vienna, and I think Constantinople as well. Now we've got this influx of Muslims, predominantly Muslim people, illegal immigrants coming into our country. Who set up the networks to get them here? Who did that? Well, it'd be a number of NGOs, could likely be a Soros situation. You could look at all of these groups. What I suggest you do, go and look at who these groups are, and then look at who they work with. Look at what their ethos is. Look at what they do in this world. And guess what? Every single one of them will be pro-Zionist, will be pushing for that. We need to understand the enemy is not at the gates. The enemy is in the building. And I don't like to use the terminology enemy because I'd much rather we all got along. But we do have to look at these foreign nations who are influencing what happens in our country and what they control in our country. And we need to stop this. Every single government is controlled that we've had, certainly in the last couple of decades. Absolutely, for sure. They're controlled by foreign agents. And that could be through blackmail because they've got something on these guys. Could be through money, donations that they're forcing their hand. We've seen enough in terms of Jess Phillips and others, their behavior because they don't want to lose the Muslim vote. What's happening with the guys that are being paid by Israel? What are they going to do? So the cat's being set amongst the pigeons. These guys want the Muslim outbreak. They want there to be conflict. It allows, you know what it's like. Conflict allows for control. It's always happened. And if you create a vacuum, like it's happened in the Middle East, thanks to us going over to try and introduce our democracy, it's a seeming vacuum where we then go in, and by we, I mean the West, install leaderships. It's actually happening here, but it just looks very different because it's not violent, it's not aggressive, there's bombs not being dropped. It's done through the back door. So what we need in England, I suggest, is an England first movement. Something that encompasses our national kind of position, but recognizes the fact that the average person from the Middle East or from other countries, average person isn't a bad person. They're not a bad person. Most people don't want war. They don't want conflict. They don't want pain. They don't want suffering. They don't want to have bombs dropped in their houses. And I would recommend the fact that we need to take a more diplomatic position when it comes to those in the Middle East that we've gone over and we've bombed based on lies. We've destroyed based on lies. You can't stay here. You can't stay in our country. You need to go home. But we sure as heck know what we did. And those people who are responsible for those actions will be held to account. Tony Blair, Alistair Campbell, all of them, all of them. We should have held them to account last time round, but our judiciary system is so screwed that we didn't. How many of our justices are being blackmailed? I would hazard a guess that a lot. Based on the fact that we've seen in the last 5 years that we do not have a functioning judiciary, we do not have a functioning police service, they're all completely biased, and then none of them working for we the people. None of them are working for we the people. The whole lot has to go. The entire establishment has to go. But when you're taking down the rot, you must remove the foreign influence. You must remove the foreign influence every time. So this rise of America First has been prolific in the last 3 weeks. It is just, there's nothing else like it. And all of a sudden you've got the Zionist lobby scrambling, panicking, trying to take down everyone around them who might possibly give a platform to somebody who's America First, not Israel First. And it is a revolutionary moment because people are even turning around to Trump, who they've loved and admired and have so much faith in, and said, I'm really sorry, Trump, but we're moving to America First. We're dropping MAGA because it's this Israel First, or seemingly this Israel First movement. And we're moving over to America First because we don't no longer want this foreign interference. We no longer want wars for other countries. We no longer want our politicians bribed and manipulated. We want genuine, authentic people from this country running this country with no foreign interference. And it has to be exactly the same here. We have to be England first. We do, because otherwise we're not going to recognise those that are actually pulling the strings. And we need to. And we need to have those honest conversations. And I would welcome anyone in the UK, including the likes of Douglas Murray, even though I've never been there, but including the likes of Douglas Murray, that if you want to debate as to why we need to remove these foreign agents from our political system, just not, hit me up, send me a message. I'll happily debate you. But we must recognize this in the UK, and we must recognize how brilliant it is that it's happening in America, because it is the people standing up. It is about we, the people. This is no longer about these big lobby groups. This is no longer about the big corporations. This is no longer about the banking system, any of it. It is about we, the people, and the time is now. And all the truth that's coming out now about, the fact that the official stories were being told about Charlie Kirk and everything else, and it turns out that it's nonsense, and Candace Owens is bringing receipt after receipt after receipt, and she's just chucking them out there. She did an incredible job under great pressure. The same people control our nation to quite a degree. Maybe not so much as the US, because let's face it, England is a little bit of a head of a snake here. We're not exactly, and I'm not talking about we the people, I'm talking about our system, our establishment is as old and as dirty as they come. It really, truly is. But it's still got a power grip on those politicians that are supposed to be representing we, the people. So we don't get the full truth. Our media is controlled by them. Our politicians are controlled by them. The time has come when this stops. And if you're looking at America, you're seeing good stuff happen. Trust me, you're seeing good stuff happen, because we, the people, are having their voice heard. This is why Mandami did well as New York mayor in the election recently. So you had Mandami, Muslim gentleman. He, I think, is, well, there's now evidence that he's being supported by the Israel lobby, but he won based on the fact that he said he was going to stay in New York and not travel off to Israel to go and lick the wall and whatever, and be brainwashed by the lobby. And he said he wanted to focus on the economy and all the rest of it. Now, I don't like his point of view in terms that it's a very socialist approach, and I don't agree with it, but it's very interesting that he won that. And another reason he won that is because Republicans didn't turn up. Republicans didn't turn up across a lot of these districts to vote. And the reason being is they're saying, no, what's the point? We put Trump in and things aren't happening. So what is the point? It was almost like a protest vote. We're not going to vote because what is the point? Let the Democrats win. Doesn't matter. And a lot of that's led by Nick Fuentes, who's saying, no, we're not going to vote in these elections if nothing is going to change. We don't care if we lose anymore. We're taking a stand. This is it. This is the line in the sand. We're not playing this anymore. We're not doing this anymore. We're not doing the pro-Zionist thing anymore. It's America first. So people didn't go and vote. So Mandini and other, Republicans had a shocking time of it. And Trump needs to reflect on that. He needs to reflect on that. And I think he is probably doing so, because the things that JD Vance has said and that, this is another thing. The Zionist lobby are now going after Vance because he didn't completely negate Tucker Carlson straight away. It's all manipulation. So in the UK, we have to start thinking like this. We have to start thinking, actually, do we want to just accept the likes of Farage and these other wet weather fanniers who, honestly, they look like our best bet right now, but are they truly here for we the people? Well, I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling it. The closest we've got probably is Rupert. But also something I think we need to consider, and I'm just going to give you a hint here quickly on a project that I'm working on with a number of other people across the freedom movement. I have to call it that because we understand it, even though I don't like it, because I don't align with most people in the freedom movement now. We are putting together a project which is a blueprint for what comes next. What does the future look like? How do we change our systems? How do we decentralize these power structures and return power back to the people? So you're getting a little heads up here. That should be out sometime in the next few months. Because if the likes of Farage get in or Reform get in, are they really going to, A, bring justice and accountability, but B, very much start removing the power from the central bodies and returning it back to the people? And if so, how are they planning to do that? I've not seen them say anything. So we're going to create that roadmap that the people of this country can use to go after, whether it be the Reform or whoever comes along next, whoever's pushed our way next, and say, hang on a minute, we don't like your plan. We want this one. And this is how you do it, because they've laid it out. And we, the people, can get behind this because it's for us. It's not for central government. It's not for the power players. It's not for the lobbyist groups. It's not for the donators. It's not, none of that. It's for we, the people. And that's exactly as it should be. Anyway, I've gabbled on a bit here, but I felt really strongly that a lot of guys that are following me have sort of made noises that they don't fully understand what's happening and why I'm so excited by this shift in the US and why that's important. It is because this great awakening does have to come back to we the people. There is nothing else out there that is the ultimate goal. It returns to us. And we're now starting to see the US people on the right stand up, and on the left, actually, stand up and say, no, we're done. America first, America only. Because right now we need to fix our nation. Look around us in England, look across the UK, shit hole, absolute shithole. Our beautiful nation is falling apart at the seams, and it is all the same players. It's all the same players across the world, across Europe, that are destroying our nations. And now is the time for us to say, okay, we're done. We don't want second best. We don't want to accept bullshit anymore. What we want is real. We want things for we the people. And we are going to stand up and say, no, we're done. We're done. You don't get to manipulate us anymore. I don't care how big you are. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you promise. If you're not for we the people, and England first, be gone. We're done with you. But that's why I'm excited. That's why I'm energized. I'm seeing this happening in the US. I want to see this happening over here. And I just want to give you guys an overview of what is going on and why this all links up to the work I'm currently doing. I'm working on 3 things. That's one of the things I'm currently doing, is exposing these cyber groups when so many of them are working with Israel or from Israel to manipulate our position as truthers in the UK. Our platforms are being manipulated, or everything that we see is being manipulated. And so many of these groups lead back to Israel. Now, we know our establishment's no angel. I've said this before, I'll say it again. But we need to deal with our home issues. We need to deal with the evil that runs through the establishment of England. We absolutely do. But first, let's get rid of the foreigners. Take them out of the equation. That absolutely takes away the safety nets for so much of our establishment members. It takes away the safety net for so many of our politicians and for our media, for everything. It just get rid of the foreign influence and control throughout the UK, whether it be political, be it the corporations, be it the banking system, be it the education system, health system, doesn't matter. Military, get them out. We must make demands for this now. It's not okay anymore. Get rid of all the foreign influence, all the foreign invaders that have come here and are not being good citizens. Then we focus on the head of the snake, the establishment, and we destroy it. We destroy these control mechanisms. We take it apart. It cannot be salvaged. We've proven that with the work I've been doing with ethical approach. We've proven that every route has been followed where the police and the judiciary are concerned. There is no way we can move forward. There's no saving it. We can hang on to the infrastructure, but as in those running it, those involved with it, those doing it, no, you're gone. It has to be gone, and justice must come. How do we do that right now? We've got reform. We need to really think about this, guys. We really need to think about our position. And that's why me and this group of people who've been working so hard over the last 5 years and are actually specialists in their field are going to put together this roadmap, this blueprint of how we return power back to the people, how any new government could come in and pick it up and run with it and it'd be what the people of this country needed. So anyway, that's me done for today. I know I've gone on a bit, but it was really important to me that everybody had a kind of another point of view of what actually is taking place in America and how that impacts over here and how the same networks are involved with both and what we need to do in order to free ourselves from being captive, being held hostage by foreign nations through our political systems and other routes. We're done. Anyway, God bless. Have a fantastic weekend, everyone. And yeah, I'll be back soon. All the best.